Chapter 7. Cafe Musings. Alex frequented a local cafe, a familiar haunt they used to visit together. The aroma of roasted beans and the gentle hum of conversation were once comforting constants, a backdrop to shared dreams and whispered secrets. Now they served as a stark reminder of what he had lost. He instinctively gravitated to their usual table, a small, round one tucked away in a corner, overlooking the bustling street. It was a space etched with memories, Mia's infectious laughter, the warmth of her hand in his, the countless hours spent sketching out their future on napkins stained with coffee rings. He sat heavily, the worn wooden chair groaning in protest. The cafe was relatively busy, a mix of students hunched over textbooks, professionals tapping away at laptops, and couples lost in their own worlds. Alex watched them, a pang of envy twisting in his gut. He saw snippets of what he had carelessly thrown away. Easy smiles, shared glances, the comfortable silence of two people deeply connected. He replayed the events leading up to the breakup in his head, a relentless loop of accusations, justifications, and ultimately irreversible damage. Where had he gone wrong? Was it the suffocating weight of expectation, the fear of a future predetermined? Or was it simply the allure of something new, the intoxicating belief that happiness lay just beyond the horizon, embodied in the enigmatic Sarah? He remembered the first time he saw Sarah at the office. She had been presenting a new marketing strategy, her voice confident and her ideas unconventional. He had been captivated by her intellect, her passion, and the way she challenged the status quo, including his own. He had convinced himself that Mia didn't understand that part of him, the part that craved intellectual stimulation and a life less ordinary. But now, sitting alone in the cafe, the memory of Sarah felt hollow, a fleeting infatuation that had cost him everything. He saw her a few times after the breakup, but the initial spark had fizzled out, replaced by awkward silences and a gnawing sense of guilt. He realized that she wasn't the answer to his existential crisis. She was merely a distraction, a temporary escape from the responsibilities he had willingly embraced. He observed a young couple giggling over a shared pastry, their eyes locked in a silent conversation. He remembered doing the same with Mia, sharing a croissant and stealing kisses between sips of coffee. A wave of nausea washed over him, and he quickly averted his gaze. A philosophical debate ensued in Alex's mind, a familiar battle between determinism and free will. Had he been destined to hurt Mia, a victim of his own flawed nature? Or had he made a conscious choice, driven by ego and a misguided search for self-discovery? He wrestled with the questions, finding no easy answers. If his actions were predetermined, then he was absolved of responsibility, a mere puppet in the grand scheme of things. But if he had acted freely, then he was fully accountable for the pain he had inflicted. He knew Mia believed in free will. She had always championed the power of choice, the ability to shape one's own destiny. He recalled their late-night discussions about Sartre and existentialism, Mia passionately arguing for individual agency, while he played devil's advocate, exploring the limitations of human freedom. Now he wondered if she had been right all along. Perhaps he had simply lacked the courage to choose her, to choose their shared future over the fleeting allure of the unknown. Flashbacks of happier moments at the cafe flickered through his mind like a broken reel. Mia's bright smile as she recounted a funny story, the warmth of her hand resting on his during a cold winter evening, the shared laughter that filled the air. These memories were juxtaposed with his present-day despair, creating a painful dissonance. He longed to rewind time, to undo his mistakes, but he knew it was impossible. The past was immutable, a fixed point in the ever-flowing river of time. He noticed an elderly man sitting alone at a nearby table, nursing a cup of coffee and reading a newspaper. There was a quiet dignity about him, a sense of acceptance that Alex envied. He wondered if the man had also experienced heartbreak, if he had also made choices he regretted. Perhaps with age came a certain resignation, a recognition that life was a tapestry of both joy and sorrow, success and failure. He attempted to start a conversation with a stranger, a young woman sitting at the counter, sketching in a notebook. He cleared his throat and offered a tentative smile. "Nice drawing," he said, gesturing towards her artwork. The woman glanced up, her expression guarded. "Thanks," she replied curtly, turning back to her sketch. Alex felt a flush of embarrassment creep up his neck. He realized that his self-absorbed demeanor was probably off-putting. He was so consumed by his own pain that he had failed to consider the other or people around him, their own lives and struggles. He decided to order another coffee, hoping to prolong his stay at the cafe, to somehow recapture the sense of connection he had once felt there. As he waited in line, he overheard a conversation between two baristas. "Did you hear about Alex and Mia?" one of them said, lowering her voice. "They broke up." "Really? I thought they were perfect for each other," the other replied. "What happened?" Alex froze, his heart pounding in his chest. He wanted to disappear, to melt into the floor and escape the scrutiny of their gaze. "I heard he cheated on her," the first barista whispered, "with some woman from his office." Alex felt a wave of shame wash over him. He was now the subject of gossip, the villain in someone else's story. He grabbed his coffee and hurried back to his table, avoiding eye contact with the baristas. He sat down heavily, his hands trembling. Over coffee, Alex pulled out a small notebook and began to journal, his pen scratching furiously across the page. He wrote about his regrets, his mistakes, his longing for forgiveness, both from Mia and from himself. He poured out his heart, expressing the depth of his sorrow and the weight of his guilt. He wrote about the philosophical questions that plagued him, the search for meaning in a world that often seemed chaotic and absurd. He wrote about Mia, her kindness, her strength, her unwavering belief in him. He acknowledged that he had taken her for granted, that he had failed to appreciate the precious gift she had offered him. He realized that true love wasn't about finding someone who completed you, but about choosing to commit to someone, flaws and all. He wrote about the meaning of forgiveness, the ability to let go of anger and resentment, to accept the imperfections of others and of oneself. He knew that forgiving himself would be the hardest task of all, but he also knew that it was the only way to move forward, to break free from the shackles of his past. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath, hoping that somewhere, somehow, Mia could find it in her heart to forgive him too. But even if she couldn't, he knew he had to forgive himself. He had to learn from his mistakes and strive to become a better person, not for her, but for himself. The cafe, once a symbol of shared happiness, had become a crucible of self-reflection, a place where Alex confronted his demons and began the long, arduous journey toward redemption.